Hey, how's it going? Nope. Wow. That doesn't really... Nope, I missed. What the hell? Where is it? Okay, now I think I might be ready. I didn't grab my guidebook for this card, and I don't know if I'm going to be referring so much to what that guidebook says today, because, well, there's been a lot of death lately. Not personally in my life, sort of peripherally, and I also all of the deaths from the natural disasters lately. Can you not? So that is in the air, I guess you could say. The kind of, well, the deaths themselves were traumatic. So that, I mean, I would imagine if you're getting burned up or asphyxiated in a forest fire, most of us are not going to have like a lot of presence of mind to not be scared. And you could probably count me among that number, because what I know and what I'm able to actually execute in practice are two different things. Or else you get so freaked out that you do dissociate and, you don't feel it before you are gone. Or, there were earthquakes in Morocco, or earthquake, I don't know. I mean, it got hit really hard with that quake. So, in Hawaii, although I don't think Hawaii had a bunch of human casualties, I imagine the loss of the cultural and historical stuff, that is a traumatic injury to the psyche. So, and I don't live there. That's not something that's like, in my blood, or that I'm totally familiar with, but like I can feel how devastating the loss is. Just talking about it, it's making me have feelings in my stomach. So that's nothing. The people that are there got to be feeling so much worse. And I think something happened in Brazil over the weekend, and I don't remember exactly what that disaster was, but if I remember at all correctly. I think it hit a bunch of people, so that's never good. Fatally, hit them fatally. I mean, I'm sure there was mass injuries to go along with that. And then, in the U.S. at least, there's the daily, live shooter count, or just, yeah. You would think that we're sort of immune to it at this point, and in a way we are, but that I don't believe is real. I think that we have an amazing capacity to stuff down under some other thought, and maybe I don't think that's compartmentalizing. That sounds pretty sloppy. That's like under the rug shoving and into the closet cramming without even looking, and that can be a problem later, because you have time right then and there and thereafter to look at whatever your issue is. And like in this case, I would say it's grief, and try not to feel it. But eventually, stuff just ekes its way through, and I can't believe we're immune to the feeling of people dying, and then the people feeling what they're feeling having lost the dead person, or whatever it is, or it's just whatever happened so dramatically that it impacts us. It just happens like all the time, and it's kind of like, oh, I better not move that around. Whoopsie. But we're not dealing with it. We're acting like, I mean, how sincere are you if you say that you're going to send thoughts and prayers? I don't say it if I don't mean it. I mean, I will think about it probably regardless of having any sort of conversation and making any declaration about what I'm going to do. But if I'm going to do it, I'll do it. I'm not going to say it if I'm not going to do it, because, I mean, I think we're supposed to just have a prayer for everybody, but maybe I'm not so good at just handing them out to anybody yet. I don't know. I don't even know if it's that. I don't know. But if I'm going to say it, then I'm going to do it. If I'm not going to do it, then I'm not going to open up my mouth and say that. I just feel like it's kind of crappy. So, I mean, to say it just for expediency, for the sake of expediency, or to make yourself look good, I don't know. So yeah, there's all that sort of widespread death and trauma that is just ongoing. And also, though, there, like I said, peripherally to me, there has been death. Like one just, wait, is it tomorrow yet? No, it's still today. Yeah, so this was not someone I know, but it's someone that I know knows the dead person, and who is just devastated. And I mean, I get it. I've been there. Really? Thank you. You too, huh? Anyway, but my feeling has always been a little different from like if it was like a family death. And it's that even my feeling has evolved over my lifetime. Like when I was very young, when I lost grandparents and things, like I was just a crying mess for a little while, and then, back to being a kid. And I think that's kind of the right way to cycle it, rather than drawing it out and dwelling on it forever. And as I got older, I started to feel like, like funerals, the dead person, I don't think they're caring about that. Like, I just always felt like it was more of a thing for the mourners that were left behind, and there was all these rules, and you're supposed to feel this way and that way. And I think I've said before that my mom wasn't a big talker, and so when she was dying, she was dying for a long time. Like 2/3 of my life, she had, the cancer that eventually terminated her, and we didn't really talk about it. In fact, we didn't talk about, I'm not going to go into all that, but let's just say there wasn't a lot of discussion about her having the disease and how it was going to affect anything going forward should she die, because she knew she was going to die. For a long time, I was young, so I didn't even project a future about it, you know. It was just like, oh, she has it, and it was very in the moment, like, I hope she doesn't die today kind of thing, but really nothing beyond that. But when it got to that point, when she was like in the hospital and it was the end, I was having discussions with my father's side of the family, a couple of them, and they were like, why aren't you crying? You need to see a shrink. And here's how you're going to do the funeral, this, that, and the other thing. So by that point in my life, I was 2 weeks away from my 19th birthday when she died. So a little bit ahead of that, like a few days, I was being told this by these relatives, and I was like, no, because my thing was, that's for you guys to all strut around and, you know, cry and moan. And that was pretty much the extent of my view about it. But when my mom finally did broach the subject with me, her feeling was the same as mine, which was, I bet she wants to be cremated and burn that shit right out of her. I swear to God, when she finally started talking about it, it wasn't verbatim, but she pretty much said the same thing, like same economy of words about it. And, you know, she was like, I'm not going to have a funeral. Like, they never gave me flowers when I was alive, so screw that. You know, I'm paraphrasing except for the flowers part. So, and she said she wanted to be cremated. But so she's like on the way out, she's in the hospital, and I'm having this discussion with these relatives, and then my mom's cousin was there, and I said, well, I don't want to give her a funeral, and by that time she had told me she didn't want one, and I said she didn't want one, and they were like, she has to have one, and I'm like, for who? And they got real mad at me. But then my cousin said no, she said that she definitely wants to be cremated, and then they were like, oh, okay. And it was like, you were never in charge of a thing. It was all down to me. Hello. You can, thank you. I appreciate it, but shh. So, she's been on my mind a lot, and that's been for like the past week and a half. Like, I kept seeing her name, and there's actually a card in this deck that contains her name. And that was one of those ones when I was shuffling, and I didn't end up reading about it on camera because it was actually a kind of a personal read for myself, which I don't do that often. But that card with her name on it came flying out. It was one of those times where it physically assaulted my head. It's because of, you know, the tabletop's like right by my face, so it's not like personal, but you know, when they fly up, there's a good chance they're going to hit me in the head, and that one did. And it was like I couldn't dismiss that. It was like she'd been on my mind in various ways. Her name kept coming up in a context where I'd be like, that's about mom, that's about mom. And the funny thing about it is, when she did pass, she was in a vegetative state, and I had worked, and just the enormity of the person that had taken care of me my whole life and made all of the things happen and everything possible, and that was just going to be me. You know, like, I had already been working for years at that point, but I was kind of not wanting to think about that because, oh my God, my whole life ahead of me without help. You know? But, you know, I was just exhausted, so I did have a final conversation with her. And as I was leaving, my uncle came in, and this always happens. Like, as soon as you leave, they're like, okay, I'm going to go now. So I got to go. As soon as I got home from the hospital, they called me. They were like, oh, your mom passed. And I was like, oh, my God, do I have to come back right now? And they're like, no, you don't have to come back. Oh, your uncle was here, which I actually passed him on the way out. He was coming in to see her. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, yeah, he sat down and she died. And he said the same thing. And it cracked me up because I kind of feel like she knew on a level about that conversation where they were like, she's got to have a funeral. You must give it to her. And like, that would have pissed her off. Like, who are you to come in and start telling people what to do? So, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that she's been on my mind a lot. And part of what I said to her, like the farewell conversation was, you know, you've done so much, and I know that, like, you must be exhausted. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Because she had made sure that was the case 3 years before when she booted me out of the house and was like, if you're not going to listen to my rules, then go out and, like, take care of yourself. And so I had to learn how to do it. So she did, like, what she was supposed to do. And, you know, I was like, go ahead and go. It's okay. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then I felt like I didn't really have this knowledge, but I was like, you know, you go do basically your afterlife and don't worry about me. And then, like, I knew, like, on a level, you know, it's your parent. They're always going to be there watching out for you. So I just didn't really feel like I felt her for decades and decades. And I wasn't upset about it. Like, I don't know, when I had problems, I just kind of called upon myself, but I now know better. Like, of course, she was always there. Ears are burning up. So, but that's unusual. Like, I don't try to consult with her very often. It's not like I didn't like her or anything like that. I feel like I could call her if I needed, but I was okay. Like, I would need, like, I didn't want to do it. Didn't want to bug her, I guess. Like, have a nice afterlife. I gave you enough problems. And, you know, even today, before I found out about my friend's friend dying, and then the other person is the person that comes and helps me all the time. And she just lost her mom, but we kind of were seeing that happen over the months. I just felt so bad, though, because, like, the week before, she was telling me how, like her mom basically had given up, and I said, wow, it sounds like she's really not trying to be here. And she was like, yeah. And like a week later, so ooh, chills and hot ears. A strange feeling. But, you know, she's already in the moving on process. It's hard losing a parent. It's hard losing a friend. I have so many dead friends. It's not even, well, it was never funny, but you know what I mean. So anyway, this veil card today, that's what it got me all thinking about. And it says forgiveness, and that could apply to so many things in our lives, but I think in the case of death, we end up with regrets a lot of times. If you could end up feeling like, oh, I have a lot of the I should have said or I should have done and things like that. And so we have, like, survivor's guilt, and we have to forgive ourselves for that, because for one thing, death is inevitable. We all know it's coming. And we can't, like, it's not good to have such an attachment to the person that's passed on that we're holding on to a piece of their energy so they can't fully pass on. And that was not even what I was leading up to say, or maybe it was the lead up to what I was going to say, but my feeling about it is this. When the person dies, the body dies, but the spirit stays alive, and if you are like really tuned into subtleties and you're like psychic or sensitive, then you can feel the presence or actually have like you can like see them and hear them in some sort of way because it's different with everyone. But they're not gone, and so it's like a transition. It's just we're sort of in our minds and in our realities separate from them, but not really. But we don't really, as a people, think of it that way. So it's, we get stuck in the being sad and all that, and that's going to happen too. Like, you should always have your emotions. It's not good to repress them, because like I was saying earlier, if you repress them, they're going to be like a pimple or something, and all of the toxins that made the bump in the first place are going to come out. We're going to well up together, and well, you've seen acne. It's not a good thing. So we have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive them for leaving us, because like I said, it's inevitable, and we have to all grow up sometime. And it's better not to be attached to something that's on the other side of the veil that you can no longer reach in the conventional way that you did. So those are my feelings about the veil today. As far as the card, it's like there's been a tear, and while spirits are going out, remember, spirits are also coming in. There's births. It's not all negative. And oh yeah, and this was the other final thing that I meant to say that I almost totally spaced out. Spirits are coming and going. Oh, come on. And in a way, like, the new ones coming in are, look at the ribbon there. It's sort of, well, it is pink, and it's hopeful to me. It's not like, if it was really terrible, I feel like it would be a black or red lace. And it's not, it's drawn together slowly, and you can tighten it as much as need be, and it can come open again. I mean, that's what I feel like, when I see the lace. But what was the thing I was gonna say? You make the transition, your spirit is still alive. What the heck was I gonna say? Well, hopefully it'll come back to me. So I'm just gonna read from the guidebook here. Forgiveness, making amends, recognition of our... Oh, now I remember. Don't wallow in the sad feelings. Like, eventually you know that it's better to move on than to just dwell on the loss of the person and how bad you feel. Also remember to celebrate the life. That's to me, a much better way to celebrate the life, and like gently separate from the relationship you had with the living person and transition to the new way of experiencing them since they're gone. But they're gone, but you can still celebrate the life. You can still remember the good times, and even the bad times, because usually when something bad happens, there's a latter period, and afterward, where you'll find some benefit from the bad thing. So quickly I'll read this. Between us all is a thin veil, appearing to be a space that separates us. We look through a veil and believe ourselves to be distinct from each other. We assume that our thoughts and feelings are our own. We see bodies and objects and the spaces between them, so we engage the world in relationships between a duality of us and them. This veil serves as a mysterious illusion, making it so hard to believe in our inherent connection with unity. Well, okay, whatever. We can't always remember that what we do to someone else, we at the same time do to ourselves. When we claw at the veil out of fear, anger, jealousy, or resentment, manipulate another, misuse our power, or allow someone's actions to diminish us, we create a wound felt by many, not just those in the smaller direct relationship. Now is the time to examine your actions. To examine where your actions have caused difficulty or harm to someone else, and also where you have been the recipient of harm. That sounds so much like the life review that in certain channeling and spiritual communities you'll hear a lot spoken about of it, where a lot of us have this whole heaven and hell idea, but the way that I understand it now, from getting all kinds of information from these spiritual channeling sites, is that we make the heaven here, the earth, the Eden that we're all looking for. It's not like one particular place. According to Cryon, the whole planet is Eden. And with that in mind, I would hope that we could treat it better, but not everybody thinks of it that way. Oh shoot! I want to find what I was thinking, what I saw that made me think something that tried to escape my thinking. Well, anyway, the life review. It's like, oh yeah, so here being Eden, this is our heaven, and it's what we make of it. What we make of it to be heaven? I don't know, that sentence sounds all chunky, but I think you get the gist. And hell, there's no hell to go to. I mean, we can dream up a whole scenario in our minds and fed by information from the culture that we live in, but turns out that's a human construct. Like, if we have a hell, we're living it. So people have not been off the mark when they've said, let's make heaven on earth, or I'm having hell on earth. It's like that's where it is, because here's where the concepts became our reality in a way. Not our, either way, real reality or fabricated reality in our heads. Another thing that not everyone will agree with me on, but that's okay, they don't have to. So let me continue. Okay, I did read that. Now is the time to examine where your actions have caused difficulty or harm to someone else, or also where you may have been the recipient of harm. Regardless of what side you're on, it's important to take responsibility for healing this rift, bringing love, compassion, deep listening, and a presence to whatever is not in harmony. Do this for you and for your own liberty, as you become an unwitting hostage once you take the role of perpetrator or victim, both positions of weakness. That's a heavy concept there that they just kind of slipped in. I'm just going to read that again. Do this for you and not for... do this for you and your own liberty, as you become an unwitting hostage once you take the role of perpetrator or victim. Both positions are weakness. Oh man, this is just gonna... I don't want to go off too far, but taking on the victim or perpetrator role, I feel like that's adding more to your cart than you have money to pay for. Oh, that's a bad one, but why add onto your bill? Seriously. It's like a matter of taming so many of our impulses But I think it can be done because I think we start out that way, and then as we grow older in age, we take on all of these bad habits and personality traits. And I guess part of what we're expected to do is to experience those things and then, like, what is it the Marines say? Unfuck that? Or unfuck it? So, yeah, and like unravel that maze. Oh, that's a that's a weird mixed metaphor, but I'll go with it. So, moving on. Let go of all your resentments, and let go of all your resentments. Know your part in the dynamic, and make the appropriate amends with what newfound wisdom and understanding. What? Okay, why does that sound so crazy? Let go of all your resentments, know your part in the dynamic, and make the appropriate amends with that newfound wisdom and understanding. Okay, well, that came out so weird before. Healing, forgiveness, and mending is what is broken in your world. Oh, sorry. Although, that's not a bad sentence, even though I kind of broke the one it was supposed to be. Let me try that again. Healing, forgiveness, and mending what is broken in your world is a sweet, much-needed declaration of freedom. You know, we take on so many things that we really don't have to. Like survivor's guilt. Thank those people for the experience. Celebrate that life. If it ended tragically, then celebrate that the tragedy ended. Like, everything doesn't have to be terrible doom and gloom, even about death and people that we love so much that we're close to. Because in the paranormal investigation world, you know, in the ghost show world, I've learned a lot about how attachments keep the dead people hanging around, and that's what I kind of trailed away on. Oh, I'm catching up on a trail I left off. Yay, me! So, you know, the attachment, and if we can't, like, grieve and then let the grief go, let go of the grief, then we are causing some portion of the person that we're so pining for to stay behind and not, you know, like, we're not allowing them to move on fully, and we're making it about us and our grief. So I think, my God, after you, like with my mom, you've worked so hard and you've lived this life where I'm not gonna go into her life, but cancer wasn't the only hard thing that she had to deal with, and I just feel like, can they move on to the next good thing? Like, don't make them still be stuck in whatever you're dwelling on. Although, you know, just a suggestion. I mean, that's some conclusions that I came to. No one else has to, like, make it their life. Just saying. Opinion commentary. So, I also pulled a card from... Whoa. Calm down. The Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, and I pulled Turtle. And if you're like me, the first disgusting thing that you thought of had to do with poop with turtles, but that's not that kind of turtle. Moving on. The turtle. Okay, I kind of love turtles now that I think of it. Because here's what I think of about turtles after the first disgusting thing. The second thing, I just scolded myself. The second thing is that turtles live a really long time, and they move kind of slowly. Well, that's our perception, that they can only move slowly. I just, this past week, saw a turtle booking it. Like, you know how you think before you see it that alligators are slow movers? Oh, no, no, no. They can run those stubby legs pretty fast. These guys, this turtle I saw, it was the funniest thing. It was just some short that I happened on somewhere, and this turtle was, like, going in the grass, and something made it, like, need to go faster, and I swear it stood up and its legs were longer, like it hitched up its shell like a skirt, and was like, I gotta get all this out of the way so I can run. And it was fast. Why am I getting a chill about that? I don't know. It was really surprising, and it made me kind of go, yay, turtle! We thought you were slow and dull. Well, dull is wrong. It's those cartoons, those hare and tortoise cartoons that I saw with the turtles, like, sometimes they're slow like that, but if they want to go faster, apparently they can. So, you know, looks can be deceiving. And this turtle, I actually had one. Oh my god, I was such a terrible child. I think I was a regular child, but used to be able to get these little turtles, and I got one, and then I now cannot even remember what happened to the turtle, so that does not bode well for the poor turtle. But it was not this color. This is an artist's rendering, but I don't know, I'm not a turtle scientist, so there probably are red marked turtles somewhere. Anyway, what's the deal with the turtle? I was just like, what's the deal with the blackness under the turtle? But maybe it's like swimming somewhere, and in order for us to be able to see the turtle in that darkness, you gotta take it away from this side, because I know I don't have underwater aquatic vision to see through dark water. So thank you, Ms. Artist, for making that visible for me. And so yeah, they're old, which means they've seen a lot. And I'm remembering a memory with my mom, actually, where I'm not sure if this was a date or what it was, but we went to this place in LA, or not in LA, in California, that I don't know if it's still there or not, but it was called Lion Country Safari. And you were in your car, and there were wild animals, and it was on this game preserve type place, and there was a petting zoo, and there was a giant turtle there. And now I don't know, I mean, I was a skinny small child there, and contrary to the way I look now, I used to be extremely thin. So I guess my mom thought it was okay, or the guy that was her date, who was a very nice British guy. I don't know what happened with him. We only went out with him once, and I thought he was really nice, but maybe he was also really horrible, because that was the only time I saw him. No, actually, that's not true. Not to get into her business too much, but I think they did date a few other times. And of course, I was way too young to have asked, but I was curious, and I don't know what happened. Anyway, it must have been him that lifted me up to sit on this turtle's back. And in retrospect, I think the poor turtle, I mean, that probably happened all the time, but they have little flippers. I don't know, it seems like a bad idea now. I didn't detect any stress from the turtle. It didn't really object. He put me on it, walked a few steps, we fed it some whatever turtle bites, and I don't know. I hope it didn't hurt the turtle. I don't want to get stuck on that. Let me read what the book says. Ancient soul, grounded. Well, I mean, they are, if they're not in the water, they're literally on the ground. Trusting, at home in the self. Well, it seemed to be trusting enough to have a skinny child ride on it. Thank you, tortoise. Excuse me, that was a giant tortoise that I rode. Anyway, it is wonderful to be in the presence of a turtle personality. Like the beaver, the turtle has a strong relationship with the earth and water elements simultaneously. This helps to ground and connect them to the deeper truths of life. No matter where their travels lead them, turtle energy is behind all great writers and storytellers, as they collect life experiences under their shells for later use. The most potent turtle energy helps us close all the other books and begin to tell our own true tale. When in balance, peaceful, adventurous, and productive. When out of balance, slows down to a halt. I mean, unless they hitch up that shell, they're already pretty slow to bring into balance and adventure. Oh man. Well, that's all very turtle centric, and I think true. I mean, it feels like pretty turtle. Sorry, I'm having some personal affectation by some of this stuff. Nothing bad, but anyway, so the turtle, or tortoise, like it said in the book, they're ancient souls, but they are long-lived creatures anyway. In reality. And it's that thing, like, oh my gosh, I see this also. I saw a couple of days ago, but I feel like it has to do with this. I saw this thing on YouTube, and it was about the man who lived for 14,000 years. And right from the title, I could see it was the people all thought he was Jesus, because he was like saying that he had to move. This was the scenario. The guy was moving, and a bunch of his friends came around to see him off and say, "Oh my gosh, why are you moving? Don't go." So he decides to tell him a story that he has to move every 10 years or so because he doesn't age. And the people there were like, "Yeah, we have known you for like a decade, and you really haven't aged." And he says, "That's because I don't." And he starts telling him the story of being around for all these historical events. And they were like, "You're Jesus, you're Jesus." And he's like, "I'm not Jesus." And I'm getting a chill. And I'm going to tell you why. Because before this, I had been watching some Dolores Cannon hypnotic regressions. And she has a series about walking. It's called Walking with Jesus. And it's about his time with the Essenes. And it's not so much about him. It was the people that were around him, and when he was staying with the Essenes in their colony. And it's about those people and relatives of his and just peripheral people to Jesus, but they were there to experience the things. And I feel like that's what this guy was saying in his story. And then by the end of it, they were like, "Oh, I don't believe this. This can't be true." And he was just like, "Yeah, you're right. I was just lying and telling a story." But the thing is, like, the guy and the turtle were both around to lose a lot of people, and the guy just left after 10 years, so he didn't have to keep seeing people age and die. But I guess, 14,000 years is a long time. He probably figured out to move on, not just for the reasons of protecting his own, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to lose this person and watch them get old and die, but also just that would have to build up on you. But I think this person probably figured out, like, if we're like taking the story as truth, they probably figured out early in the 14,000 years that they needed to be doing this, moving on and moving around. So turtles, well, as far as we know, they're in one place, but I think they outlive us. So turtles have many lifetimes in one lifetime, I feel like. And they're an animal. They are from the angelic realm, and we're something else. And we have different sensibilities, being different beings. But turtle has had a long time to resolve these issues, just like the 14,000-year-old guy. And they just have had long enough that they are not freaking out. They've just kind of seen it enough to where it's like inevitable and it's natural and you know it's going to happen. And maybe they also, you know, are like philosophical about it the way I am, that, you know, don't like make the tragedy of the death last forever and have it never ending. So don't be like an Italian woman whose husband dies when she's 24 and she wears black dresses for the rest of her life. You could have the black dress mentality living in your life and then also have other sides to yourself where you wear a color. And because that affects us, you know, if you wear black all the time, out of grieving, well, I mean, boy, attachment city. So I guess that is my deal here today is, yes, the veil is always there. Maybe it's just always open a little bit because people are coming and going, you know. And death is inevitable. We're always going to lose someone. And we can be like the 14,000-year-old man and sort of avoid the whole having to deal with that and move every so often so that, well, I explained that part of the story, but you know, that could be a metaphor too. Like, we do end up having to move on from people and places and things in life just because sometimes life necessitates that. So I guess it's just a good idea to enjoy where we're at when we're there, and enjoy when we have to move on, and enjoy what we have when we have it, and remember how much we loved it when we lose it. When we lose it. I just learned to speak the English. Thank you and good night.